I just returned from my family reunion in Albertville, Alabama, and I love sitting around with the family listening to the stories, really learning to appreciate the hardships that my family endured. One of the things that I learned is that my grandmother's sister, she and her sister married brothers, so their children are double cousins. And one of the double cousins was there talking about how his mother, when she was a young widow raising 3 sons, Verbin said that she would take the big leaves off of the cabbage while the cabbage was growing in the field, and she would cook the cabbage leaves in hog lard. And he was talking about what delicious meals she can make out of nothing. The cabbages wasn't ready to pick yet, so they had to eat, so they had to take something. Remember, back in those days, there was no Social Security, no Medicaid, no welfare, no food stamps. There was nothing. Everybody had to make their own living, or had to have somebody that they could depend on that could help them make the living. That's why even if you didn't have land, you could be sharecroppers, which is what my family was. Somebody else would own the land, and then you would live on the property, work the land, grow the crops, which in those days for my family was cotton and corn, and then you would share the profits, if there were profits, at the end of the year. But I don't think I'll ever eat cabbage again without remembering the story Uncle Verbin told about how that he lived off of the outer cabbage leaves fried in hog lard, and they were very thankful for it. The other story that I heard was about my grandmother, who had it very hard. She had 6 children. She had one who died, and my grandfather was not a provider by any means, and they were sharecroppers, so a lot of the burden fell on the kids. And there were times when my grandfather would leave, disappear for months at a time, and leaving my grandmother to survive somehow on her own. And there was times, the family said, that she had nothing to feed the children but some cornmeal and water. And somehow she would mix that up, and she would fry it up, and she would serve it to the children. I also heard the story many times about how my aunt, when she was in school, she asked if she could bring a friend home from school one day, and Grandma said, if you're willing to share your lunch. And what her lunch was one biscuit with a slice of tomato in it, and she had to share that biscuit with her friend. These are the stories that this generation needs to hear. This is the generation that our children need to hear. We need to understand that though we may be entitled or feel entitled and spoiled, it was hard back in the pioneer days. It was hard 100 years ago. And it wasn't until after World War II that this American prosperity began to really take hold. And that generation didn't want their kids to work hard, and I was one of those kids that didn't have to work hard, and as a result probably didn't appreciate the many, many blessings that I've had. Going back and living off the land, I think, is an invaluable experience that we should all appreciate. So maybe you want to come out and join us on Farm Friday at Pioneer Village and learn what Pioneer life is all about.